Three, two, one, action. Welcome back to episode 8 of As Seen on Screen. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Gracie, and this is your source for all things entertainment news, reviews, and conversations.
You can find us wherever you get your podcasts on Spotify and YouTube. I feel like I say this every week, but we have a busy episode this week, so we can't wait to get into it. We have tons of fun things to share, a new fun little game segment we're going to try out. So let's get right into it. Gracie, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, so big news for Game of Thrones fans. House of Dragon has been renewed for season 3. That comes right after season 2 just started, I believe.
Yeah.
So that's pretty quick, but it's also nice to see that it's getting another season considering Game of Thrones went on for what, 8 seasons?
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what they do with it. I haven't caught up on it, so I can't really say much to the new season. But yeah, how about you? Have you watched it?
I was just about to say I have not watched any of the Game of Thrones things. It's on my list for this summer to try and get it done before school starts up again in the fall, but it's something I've just never gotten around to watching. But I definitely want to because I always hear great things about it.
Yeah, honestly, the cast is amazing, but just the CGI and the editing that they put into it is so crazy to think about. Yeah.
But that's very exciting for Game of Thrones fans. But another fan base that is maybe a little sad after last week's announcement is Taylor Swift officially announced during her 100th show in Edinburgh that she is indeed closing out the Eras Tour in December.
Honestly, mixed emotions. I'm like, thank God, because she needs a break.
I'm so surprised that she's ending it in Vancouver. I don't know why. It just seems like
Yeah.
out of everywhere she's been, that's such like a
Is she ending it in Vancouver?
the only shows right now she has in December are Vancouver.
True.
Because she goes back to the States this fall. She does like Miami, I want to say. She has a few,
Mhm.
Indianapolis, I think. Then she plays Toronto mid to end of November, and then plays Vancouver at the very beginning of December. And then there's no shows right now announced for after that.
Yeah.
So
That's gonna be so weird, like having a life where the Eras tour just doesn't happen because I look for those updates all the time.
I'm scared for the next time she goes on tour because I mean, obviously, I'm sure again in her lifetime she'll do another tour.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but can you imagine like how do you top yourself on that? How do you do something better than the Eras tour? Because you've already done now an Eras tour of your first 10 albums.
Part of me wants to be like, oh, you can't top it, but it's Taylor Swift. She'll find a way to top it.
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
intrigued to see too if she does another, because another big thing was people talked about the Eras Tour film, and now because she's changed it to fit in the Tortured Poets department, is she going to do like another, I don't know, not a
I
sequel to
think
it,
she will.
but like an updated version
Yeah.
of it to, to
I think she will because they have been recording at
yeah,
the shows. So unless the only other thing I could see them recording for is like a documentary.
yeah.
So we could get either or, we could get both. You never know with her.
That'll be interesting because then you have to think about is she going to re-release it in the theater? Like craziness, craziness. Taylor is
Oh
just
yeah.
craziness.
She keeps us on our feet.
I'm still surprised because honestly, I did not believe she was gonna like I was like at first I was like she's gonna go around the world and not go to Canada. That seemed weird. But then it just took forever for her to announce any Canadian dates and it's only Toronto and
Mhm.
Vancouver. And it got to the point too where like I was like, is she really not coming to Canada? I couldn't believe it. And then I was like, oh, never mind. We're
She
good.
said surprise. Yeah. No, a lot going on in the world of Taylor Swift, but I wish we could say we were prepared, but no one really knows what she has stored. So
Who knows?
it's always interesting.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
But next in the movie category, we have an exciting update for the Academy Awards. They are reportedly like planning towards or thinking about adding a best stunt category for the Oscars, which is really cool. And of course, this presumably comes after the success of The Fall Guy and how director David Leitch has been put and Ryan Gosling has been pushing towards adding this to the Oscars. So, what do you think about this, Gracie?
I'm so excited for this. I was shocked that it wasn't already
Yeah.
a category because of how important STEM people are to the movie, film, and TV industry. So they definitely deserve recognition, 100%. And I think this is such an important category to have, not only for them, but for the people who are helping the stunt people figure out where they have to be and when they have to hit the mark. So it's just about recognition. It's important to get everybody who's a part of something like that to a certain extent. Like, obviously, you can't appreciate everybody singularly, but stunts are definitely a huge part, especially for like action movies.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to look at the history of film and be like, all the amazing works of stunt work wouldn't have happened in these films that people have come to know and love without them. So it's a shame that they haven't been recognized in the past, but hopefully they will definitely really consider this and implement it. And I mean, it will take years to implement, of course, but in the future, that's exciting to see. And I think The Fall Guy did such a good job too of like relaying the importance of what these people do in films and truly bringing it to life on screen by showcasing what they do and really having this movie revolve around their craft. So I think that's exciting for them to see. And obviously, like you and I were at the premiere, they talked a lot about the filmmakers talked about making this film with a specific goal in mind and really hoping for this and pushing for it. So it's exciting to see that the Academy is at least considering it and hopefully they'll implement it.
Yeah. I mean, we did see this at South by Southwest, which we always find a way to bring up that festival. But
There's always a loophole into it.
in other South by news that we kind of talked about, Hunter Schafer, we got to interview her on the red carpet for Cuckoo, but it has just been announced that she is joining the cast of the new Blade Runner movie, Blade Runner 2099. It's an Amazon MGM film, and she's going to be starring alongside Michelle Yeoh. Other than that, not much is known about this, other than it's another Blade Runner movie. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but I'm happy she's staying booked and busy. She was such a sweetheart. What do you think about this?
I'm excited to see this because in what a lot of people have seen Hunter Schafer's work, we've seen her obviously in Euphoria, which is far different than what we saw her in Cuckoo, which comes out in theaters in August for everyone else watching. Definitely catch that. It's a horror film. We've talked a bit about it, but I would argue that definitely had way more like action towards her character than what we've seen her in before. And she did such a great job of portraying her character in that film. We're going to see her again this week in Kind of Kindness coming up, which Jordan talked about last week in her interview. So I'm excited to see more of her. I love her work so far, what we've seen her in. And I think this is an exciting opportunity for her. Obviously, the Blade Runner movies are huge, is a huge franchise. So I think it's very exciting for her, and I'm excited.
Yeah, definitely. But talking about, well, we just brought this up a bit ago, but sequels. There have been a lot of sequel announcements, and I feel like you and I talk about this every week where we feel like there's just not a lot of originality. But that being said, sometimes the sequels can be better than the original movies.
It's true. I mean, usually I'm always a bit skeptical going into sequels because it doesn't happen very often. But when it does happen that the sequel outshined the original, it's kind of exciting.
So, you want to introduce our next segment?
Yeah, we are going to be playing sequels versus originals. So Gracie and I have compiled a list of films we've seen of both the original film and the sequel film, and we're going to be kind of debating whether which one was better. So let's start off with Enchanted versus its sequel, Disenchanted. What is your pick on this and why?
Enchanted. There is no debate for me. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I was so excited when it was first announced, but I'm gonna be so honest. I stopped watching the second one within like a few minutes because I was like, this is horrible. This is not what we asked for
Yep.
in the slightest. I just think the original Enchanted is so original, number one, but it's just such a feel-good movie, and you can't not like the movie. It has cartoon, it has live action, it has singing, dancing, comedy, and the cast is amazing. Like
Yeah.
that for me is one of the movies that I can watch over and over again and never get tired of. And Disenchanted just didn't really hit on for anyone, I think.
Yeah. I think for me, I 100% agree with you. I'm enchanted all the way. When I watched Disenchanted, I felt like I was forcing myself to watch it because I honestly wanted to turn it off. And I was like, maybe it'll get better. I feel like I just have to watch it to say I did watch it, but no, it did not work for me at all. But like like you said, Enchanted is one of the movies that I think back to when I would watch when I was a kid, and like the fascination of it going from animated to live action and to splitting it back and forth was just so cool to see as a kid because there were no like that I can think of no other movies really like that as like as a kid to see at the time when we were that age. So that was cool. And I think the biggest difference too is that Enchanted, as much as it's a kid movie, it's very adultish in the way that it takes itself seriously. It had like Amy Adams, Patrick Dempsey, they do such a great job, and Dina Menzel, James Marsden, they're all so good in the movie. And it's not like a goofy Disney kids movie, but that was very much what it felt like watching Disenchanted. I felt like
Mhm.
Disenchanted was far more like almost a comedy based. Like I love Maya Rudolph, but I just think it was so childish almost in a way that it was more aiming to that. And I think having a large audience already that loved Enchanted and having like the adult generation watching Disenchanted, I just don't think it fit and worked with what the first one was like. So
Yeah.
definitely Enchanted all the way.
Next up, I'm very passionate about this one, but I guess it could be considered a series, but The Hunger Games versus The Hunger Games Catching Fire. This is such a like split opinion for a lot of people. Some people are like, "Mm, the first one was the best, as most movies are." But I am a firm believer that the second one is the best Hunger Games movie to date. Like, outstanding.
I agree. Catching Fire, again, we keep bringing these up, is one of my favorite movies of all time. But I agree. I think as much as I love the first one, I would definitely say that out of the three original movies, we have Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and well, I guess four, Mockingjay Part 1 and 2, that Hunger Games would be my second favorite in the four movies. So I love it still, nonetheless. I think both are fantastic. The first one's good for getting like acclimated to who the characters are and to finding out like the
Yeah.
backstories and finding out the origins of the Hunger Games da da da. But the second movie really gives you more of the character arcs, and we see obviously Katniss and Peeta fall more in love. Um, you see like what the aftermath of the Hunger Games does and how their relationship even strained first before they kind of started falling more in love again. But we see that strained. We see more of Haymitch and Effie. I just think I don't know. I don't know what it is about it, but I love, love, love that movie. And I love Sam Coffin. So
Mm,
him and Jenna Malone.
yes.
I love their characters are so funny. So I love them.
Yeah. Honestly, I think my Hunger Games rating is like based off of the originals. Probably Catching Fire, Hunger Games, part two of Mockingjay, and then part one.
Yeah.
Part one just felt like really slow.
It's funny when I go and rewatch the series, most of the time I skip over Mockingjay Part 1 because I'm like, I know this. I read the books. I've already seen this movie. I don't need to sit through this 2.5 hour of nothing really happening.
Honestly, in fairness though, like I do give the director props for admitting he was wrong to split it into two parts.
Yeah.
He was like, if I could go back and do it now, I would make it all one part. And I was like, I appreciate that. But that was the time that we were in. Every last movie was being split into two. You had Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows part one and two. But yeah, everything was getting split up into two. That's just how it worked in that era of movie making.
And I mean, you know what? Like, even though he's admitted it was wrong, I don't think it was necessarily like the worst thing he could have done. Because then on the flip
No,
side, if he had made Mockingjay as just one movie, it could have ended up feeling rushed, and that everyone would have complained that this was too fast, you didn't have enough detail. Like, I think it not
because
only
that was also the point of movie making where movies weren't 3.5 hours long.
I would say it was better almost to have to wait a year to get the second part of the movie because A, it builds suspense. I mean, most people had read the book, so you knew it was coming, but it definitely built suspense within the franchise and the movie fan base. But it also just, like you said, you don't want to sit through two, like 3.5 hour movies. It's just so like this franchise is just so heavy. This has
Hmm.
such a heavy subject matter that like sitting through 3 hours of this is gonna like weigh you down. But bottom
But
line,
yeah,
fire wins in our books against the Hunger Games, but I love both of them. I love both of them, but Catching Fire is definitely my standout of favorite. Let's debate Divergent versus Insurgent.
I gotta go with Divergent on this one.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the nicest way, but I feel like it's a known fact. The Divergent movies just got progressively worse. I know people who have read the series and were like diehard fans, and they basically stopped watching after the first movie. They're like, no, that's it. We don't need more because the first one, I guess, was like mediocre to the book. I haven't read the book. I just read The Hunger Games. That was my phase. But yeah, from what I've heard, the people who have read it weren't necessarily impressed with the adaptation. So for that, I'm gonna say number one is the best.
Yeah, I agree. I honestly, like you said, I didn't read the books either, so I don't have much to add in the ways of like book to film adaptation. But I haven't watched these movies in years too. Like I honestly think I've only watched them once, so I
Yeah.
don't even remember them that clearly, which probably speaks to the greatness of them.
Which proves our point.
But I do remember liking Divergent more for sure than Insurgent, so I'll definitely go with Divergent on this one.
What about the Oceans movies?
Ooh.
What are
You
you
know,
feeling?
I think I'd pick Ocean's 11 over Ocean's 12 and 13 and then Ocean's 8. But I think this franchise in a whole is as a whole is great. I actually didn't watch them until a few years ago. And then when I did watch them, I really liked them a lot. But I think I've seen Ocean's 11 more as well. Like I've seen the whole series of it, but then I would rewatch Ocean's 11. Um, but for no particular reason, really. I just enjoy the first one the best out of all of them.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with that.
Sometimes there's no deep reason. There's just really, honestly, the first one is just the
It's
best.
like I don't not enjoy the other ones, but if I had to choose, it'd be the first one.
I think too, sometimes with movies like that, you go into those not having really like a movie to compare it to that came up before it. Like, obviously, heist movies are nothing new. However, there wasn't like an Ocean's 11 that existed before Ocean's 11, like a comparative
Hmm.
same movie. So I think the excitement of just seeing the first movie sometimes and having no preconceived opinion about it and just not really knowing what you're going into just already makes the first one better. Because when you go into the sequel, you already know what to expect. You know the characters, you know the story. Sometimes, obviously, they outdo themselves, as we're saying, but think sometimes the first one you just can't beat it, and especially like just the excitement for
Uh, Bringing up our favorite, Glenn Powell,
it.
Top Gun Maverick or Top Gun?
Oh, this is such a hard one. Maverick I saw in theaters when it came out 2 years ago, three times. I saw it three
Okay.
times in the theater, and I think I've at least watched it three more times since at home. So I love Maverick, but Top Gun I've also seen at least 4 or 5 times the original. So I love both of these films. Oh, that's so hard. That is so, so hard.
This is one of those films where it's like undecided because it's such a special story
Mhm.
and such a deep cast. Like everyone has a deep love and care for this. I'm not saying that other movies don't, but the training that they go through, the stories that they've heard, it's just hard to kind of compare both of them. obviously Top Gun will forever be a classic, but I feel like I have watched Maverick more. So for that reason, I'll say Maverick.
I don't like, and this is one of the movies where to me it shows the real importance of going into a sequel for a beloved iconic film because when I went and saw it, the very first I went and saw it like on opening night in IMAX with my friend and some other people and my friend's boyfriend turned to us. He hadn't seen Top Gun. He had not seen the original. He turns to us in a completely packed opening night, no seats left theater and goes, "Did Goose die or something?" I was like, I
The silence.
I just the look I gave him, I was like, just just stop.
Just watch the movie.
Stop talking because I felt like I needed to turn around and be like, I promise I've seen the original. I'm so sorry. But I think I'll agree. You know what? I think I would pick the original Top Gun. I remember seeing it too at the drive-in. I went with my mom, our local drive-in during COVID, and they had the original Top Gun playing and then like A Quiet Place Part 2 or something when that came out. So I remember my mom loves Top Gun, hence why I've seen it like a bajillion times. I just love it so much, but I also love Maverick. But they're coming out with a third one as well. They
Mhm.
months ago they said there was a third one in production. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that it's just as good as Maverick in terms of sequels. But I'll pick Top
Yeah.
Gun. I will pick Top Gun, and I'll stop ranting now. For our last one of the game, what do you think between Avatar and Avatar: The Way of Water?
I'm gonna be so honest, was not the biggest fan of Avatar. It just, I don't know. I always felt not uncomfortable watching it, but I don't know what it was. As a kid, I just always didn't feel good watching it. I just felt sick for some reason. So I think that memory is like ingrained into my brain. And I just link it together where I'm like, ooh, icky. Um, that being said, I know people who love the first Avatar, so I have watched it and I enjoyed it. But I did see the second one in theaters when it came out, and it was just so beautifully shot. The direction, the script, the storyline was amazing. So I'm gonna say number two.
I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna say number two as well. Again, Avatar was one I actually didn't watch as a kid. I hadn't gone and seen it until almost 2 years ago, I guess, for the 20th anniversary when they re-released it in theaters. And I went and saw it in theaters. I didn't love it. I felt like it was too long for what it was. I felt there was definitely certain parts of the original Avatar movie that were drawn out a little too much. Obviously, when it came out, it was far different at its time because it had so much successes that
It
they
was
had, yeah,
groundbreaking.
they hadn't seen in cinema yet at that point. So props to it for that, obviously. But Way of Water, I really, really enjoyed. I loved the storyline. I loved the addition of the characters. I thought it was great. I actually saw that one twice in theaters. So I the second time out with my friend and we saw it in 4DX, the Cineplex
Oh,
experience 4DX, which was cool because of course all of it happens basically in water and it sprays water at you constantly in the 4DX theater.
I
So
don't know if I can do that.
they would like jump underwater and the chair in front of you just like sprays water straight in your face. And I was like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, those are comparisons, but segueing over, keeping the topic on sequels,
yes,
there were a few sequel announcements
there
for
we go.
films and
Yeah.
TV shows, I guess. One that Nicole is particularly excited for is,
Practical Magic 2. Not much is known about it yet. They have just pretty much announced that it's going into production. But Sandra Bullock, Nicole Kidman, I mean, how on earth could you go wrong? How could you ever go wrong? But love the first one. Again, one my mom got me into because my mom's a huge fan of the film. So I've always enjoyed watching that one with her. So I'm excited to see what they do with the second one. I mean, we can't talk too much about content-wise because we don't know what it's going to be about. But it's excited that it's coming and one I look forward to.
yeah. Next up, we also have My Spy, which I'm very excited for. I love the first one. I think it's so cute.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see them all grown up because in the first film, the main character is obviously Dave Bautista. They were so small then. I say that as Dave Bautista being like the biggest man ever, but they're all grown up now. They're back together, and I think it's just such a feel-good movie, but it also mixes the action in so well in a way that it's not a cheesy kind of like, oh, I mean, you know what's gonna happen, but it's one of those action films that you can enjoy, but it also has a lot of heart to it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that.
It's exciting. But one that
One
is
we're not excited for.
one that's questionable and whoever needed this to be made is the new 8 episode series coming out to Prime Video on July 11th is Sausage Party Foodtopia. I don't know who felt the need to make a Sausage Party series.
Seth Rogen.
Someone, someone at Prime Video did. The first poster for it came out a few weeks ago.
I didn't watch the first one. I didn't watch the movie. Like I've seen clips of it, obviously, who hasn't? But I just have no motivation to watch it. And I think that transfers over to this TV show because when you look at the comments of this post where they say, oh, surprise, everybody's like, okay, but who asked for this? Really, who asked for this?
Yeah,
And I agree because up until they posted about it, didn't even know it was in the works.
exactly. Honestly though, I think one thing that could work to their advantage is that the fact that if it could just be seen as such a weird and silly concept that people might watch it just for the fact of figuring out what it's about and
Yeah.
like what this storyline could possibly be in an 8 part series. I mean, I'm pretty sure the first movie's only like it has to be less than 2 hours. So what are they gonna put
Yeah.
8 episodes of this?
Maybe it's like food that was on a plane and then the plane crashed. And I don't know, that's what I get from the poster.
Yeah, because anyone who's watching this video form, here is the poster for it. If you're listening on Spotify, you can check out Rotten Tomatoes has it posted, or you can Google it. But that's the trailer. I agree with you. It definitely looks like they're in some sort of plane crash or like tropical forest, stranded.
Yeah.
It's giving Castaway with food.
Castaway.
So,
Whenever you say castaways, I think of the Backyardigans meme where they're singing castaways.
sorry, Tom Hanks. The new generation has a different memory of Castaway.
Yeah, it's a banger. It's a banger.
Um,
But
yeah.
speaking of bangers, what is your song of the week?
Ooh, okay. I know last week I said it would be Luke Combs, which I have been loving his new album. I haven't had a chance to listen to the whole thing yet, so I'm gonna save that maybe for next week. But for this week, I'm gonna talk about Thomas Rhett. I've been loving his 2 new singles he's put out, Beautiful as You and Gone Country. They're both singles that he's released for his upcoming album About a Woman, which comes out on August 23rd. I'm really excited for this one. I love this one. It sounds a little bit different than his 2 previous albums, which I love. It sounds more like I don't know how to describe it. It just has a different sound to it, but I think it's really cute. Anyone who listens to country music knows about him and his wife's love story, and a lot of his music's already dedicated to her. So I think it's really exciting, but it's really cute, and I've been loving those 2 songs. What about you? What is
Love
your
it.
song of the week, Gracie?
I feel like I always do throwbacks. Like mine's not really a recent song, but
Hey,
it's
back
a song that like I press shuffle and I hear a song on my playlist. I'm like, oh, such a good song. And then I remember it and I'm like, oh, that's my song of the week. So this week's song is Golf on TV by Lennon Stella and JP Sachs. Not the single version where Lennon Stella is the only one there. It has to be the one that has JP Sachs in it. I love this song. It's about love and like how simple things are like so nice when you're in love. Like even just waking up and going downstairs and seeing them there, or like seeing someone get along with your family, or going and eating breakfast when you're not alone. Um, it's just a really cute song, and I love the fact that it has a random title like Golf on TV. But it does make sense when you listen to the whole song. So I definitely recommend that. I've seen both Lennon and JP in concert live, and they're both fantastic artists. I've had the chance to meet them both, and they're lovely people. So yeah, go support that song.
Love it. Love a good throwback. We balance each other out.
We
New
do. You do country, I do throwbacks.
throwback pop. Love it. So those are our songs of the week. So you can stream them Spotify, Apple, where we get your music. But let us move on as well to our watch of the week. What is your weekly watch, Gracie?
I'm so proud of my weekly watch this week. I'm so proud. Uh, I finished Maxton Hall,
For
and
that
I feel so validated for the fact that I finished it before we filmed this episode because I remember like a few episodes ago, we were like, we're gonna finish it, we're gonna watch it, and then we're gonna review it. So I can finally say I did that. So I beat you to that.
you did.
But
What is your review?
it gets into it really fast. I'll give them that. It's not a slow, well, it's a slow-ish burn. But for those of you who don't know, it is about this school, Maxton Hall. It's basically like a high school, I guess, but like for very prestigious um kids. And this one girl, Ruby, is not a high-end kid. She does not come from money, but she worked her way in there, and she is set to get a letter to Oxford. That is her dream because no one in her family has gone to college or university or whatever they call it there. And of course, there's a good-looking heartthrob who's an absolute douche to her, and stuff happens, and they're forced to run an event together. And through this event, they just learn things about each other and fall in love. And yeah, I'm always a sucker for an enemies to lover trope. So I really enjoyed the show. I enjoyed it. It left off on such a cliffhanger though, and such a sad cliffhanger too, that I'm like, ooh, I need season 2 now because that was really depressing. They started production, so that's positive. But yeah, Max and Hall on Prime Video, if you haven't already watched it. What's
Thank you.
yours, Nicole?
Mine, I'm also really proud of this one too because it was my goal to see this on opening weekend, and I did. But Inside Out 2, I loved it. I loved it so much, and I was so glad because I went in with such high expectations after hearing early critic reviews and just being excited for this film. In general, Pixar does actually do a pretty good job with sequels if we're looking at a general overview of Pixar sequels. So they didn't disappoint with this at all. I would actually argue this is almost better than the first one, almost.
Wow.
Only because okay, I feel like if we went back to my 9-year-old self and asked her to compare the two movies and watch it back then when the first one came out, I would probably say that I liked the first one better for the sole fact that at that age it was more relatable for the first one.
Yeah.
You saw more of the childhood Riley. Obviously, you have joy, sadness, anger, fear, disgust. Those are more emotions you understand as a child compared to the new additions of embarrassment and anxiety. But now at this age, at 20, I would definitely say that Inside Out 2 is my favorite. I think Maya Hawke did such a great job portraying anxiety in this film and the writers writing the script for this film. Even like embarrassment and envy and ennui. Those ones, they're just so, I don't know how to describe it, but if you watch the film,
Honest.
yeah, you understand like you see that these situations that is put in, and Riley's only 13 in the film, so of course you have to look back a little bit into your teenage years at our age. But even situations that she's in, just like social confrontations with people, issues that she runs into with friends, moral dilemmas that she runs into with trying to fit in, going into high school. It's something that anyone who's past that age in their life understands how hard it was and those anxiety and fear and everything else that you go through at that age. And I think they did such a great job of portraying this in a kid-friendly way, but also in a way that you can appreciate at any age because there's still emotions that you live with throughout the rest of your life and you go through new situations, but they do really a good job of portraying how difficult it is to grow up and how alone you can feel in that, even though everyone else is going through it with you too, and everyone else understands those emotions. So I think they do a great job. There's a line that I know a lot of people are talking about, um, where Joy says in the movie, she's like, maybe I'm learning something along the lines of, I'm learning that maybe when you grow up, you feel less joy. And when she
Hmm.
said that in the movie at the point she said then, I was like, oh, that's so sad.
Dude, part of me is so scared to see this movie because I'm still heartbroken from the first one, like when Bing Bong died.
I cried 4 times last night watching it. 4 times. And I don't cry easily. Actually, I used to never
You
cry
do cry easily.
ever, and now I am a sucker at any movie, and it's I don't know what has happened. But
I know Disney keeps posting like clips of number two, and they're just so sad. I'm like, I don't want to be depressed.
it's like a punch to the gut. But it's also
Yeah.
but like in a positive way. I don't know how to explain it, but it's not like depressing to sit and watch it. It's almost like validating because
Hmm.
you're understanding that so many other people have gone through the same emotions that you've gone through in whatever different ways they've experienced them in different situations and anything like that. Um,
Hmm.
so I have nothing but positive things to say about this movie. It was so good. I definitely will be seeing it again because it was just so cute. I loved it. So I'm excited to see it again. And I'm
Yeah.
excited that I loved it.
Well, we are getting to the end of the episode, so let's end it off like we always do with our upcoming releases. Nicole, do you want to start us off?
Okay, so we have another big weekend in TV and theatrical releases. So starting us off today on June 27th, we have season 3 of The Bear on Disney Plus. This show has gained such huge traction, especially coming out of award season this past year for season 2, and all the awards Jeremy and Io were winning for this show as well. So yeah, moving into theatrical releases this weekend, another good few releases. We have one that I'm very excited about. A Quiet Place Day 1 is coming out tomorrow on Friday, June 28th. I'm very excited for these ones because Quiet Place was my first horror movie I saw in the theater. And if you've listened to any of the other episodes, you know that I love horror movies. And I think they just did a fantastic job with The Quiet Place 1 and 2. They were so good. They're so stressful and it's so unique
Mm.
because you don't have any mu at least much talking throughout it. There's very little dialogue in it. So I think suspense wise and like building that suspense in a horror movie is so smart of them. So I'm very excited to see what they do with this one. I love Lupita and Joseph, so I'm very excited to see what they do with this film. Always going into like this is a prequel. So going into like prequel sequel territory with a different cast sometimes can be a little iffy when you don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm very excited to see what they do with it. So that is coming out. What else do we have, Gracie?
We have Daddy-O, which was at TIFF. Nicole, I believe you saw it,
I did.
but I didn't get the chance to see it, and I was very upset. But Dakota Johnson is in this film, and yeah, I don't, has a trailer been released? Yeah, a trailer's been
Trailer's
released.
been released. It also played at Tribeca recently in New York, the Tribeca
Yes.
Festival. It's also Sean Penn. So it's Dakota Johnson and Sean Penn are the only two people in this entire movie besides the one airport baggage person at the very, very beginning. But for the
Mm.
most part, they're the only two people in this entire movie. This was one of my two favorite films that came out of TIFF last year. I loved this film, and director and writer Christy Hall, it's her debut feature film. And she just blew it out of the water for me. I loved it. Again, this was another one where I was like, how's a film with two people gonna do with the running time that it had? But it's just fantastic. It's a movie just about human connection and the importance of human connection and it's just so good. I love it.
Yeah, and on top of that, we also have a new Netflix film, A Family Affair. I believe we talked about this a few episodes back. I don't know. I'm just not feeling this movie. It could be because it just comes on the tracks like right behind the Idea of You premiering, and it kind of gives off the same vibes where the mom is dating or seeing a very rich younger man, and the daughter gets upset. So in that sense, I'm just not super excited for it. One, because I didn't even know this was a thing before like a month ago. And two, I just really love the idea of you so much that it kind of seems like spoof to me in a way. But what are you thinking?
I have to agree with you. But the only thing is, I love Nicole Kidman, and
Mm.
Kidman has given us so many great movies over the span of her career that I find it hard to believe that she would do a film that she doesn't really believe in the sense that it has a good storyline and that it will perform well on Netflix. So I am holding out hope that just because we have Miss Nicole Kidman in this, that she will save it because I love her filmography. So maybe, but I have to agree.
We will see.
Yeah, I have to agree with you that I'm unsure about how to feel about this film, but we can watch it this weekend, so we'll find out.
You know what? I know you're not unsure about Despicable Me 4, which is coming out on July 3rd. Nicole is an avid fan of Minions, and I've been sending her a bunch of memes every day about this film. So I think we're both very excited about it, but definitely Nicole more than me.
It's my one childhood thing that I refuse to let go of, so I apologize. Wednesday, July 3rd, you will find me in the theater watching Despicable Me 4. But I saw the very first, like, I've seen the trailer at home before, but last night when I was watching Inside Out 2, I saw the trailer at the theater for the first time. So excited. I don't know why Minions has been my thing, but love them. I'm very excited for this one, clearly.
Yeah.
So,
And lastly, we have Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F. I haven't seen the first one. I feel so bad for saying that because it is such an iconic movie. But I am excited. I'm not gonna watch the second one until I watch the first one. So I'm excited to have like a little watch party. Um, there's a lot of anticipation behind this film from the fans it already had from the first film. So I'm excited to see all the reviews and just see how it's received by those hardcore fans.
yeah, absolutely. I'm with you on the same boat that I haven't seen the first one either, but I definitely plan to watch it, like you said, and then to see the second one. So, but yeah, so that's all we have for this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're so much talk about sequels this week, so I'm very excited to see where all these movies are going, whether they're coming out soon or they're in production. So many great things and projects to look forward to. But as always, thank you for tuning in to As Seen on Screen. I'm Nicole,
I'm Gracie.
and you can find us anywhere you watch your podcasts on Spotify or YouTube.